Dave, right here.
Is anybody else?
I thought Sally.
Next, no. Saying that she tried calling, something about my email being. So maybe we could just put her on. I'm here with Dr. Sanchioni, and on remote we have Diane Farnworth, Sally Black, Elaine Pavo, and Deborah Palish, committee members. We are going to really just stick to our agenda of old and new business, and we will be monitoring Facebook. Ms. Delcourt will be able to relay questions. Okay. I'm not online? I'm not.
No. Go ahead. You're online.
So we're actually trying to see if we are live streaming. So once we have confirmed that, we'll kind of repeat our introductory comments.
Live.
We're live. Okay. We are now live, I think. So I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Tiverton School Committee for March 24th, 2020. I'm here with Dr. Sanchioni. By remote, we have Mrs. Black, Mrs. Palish, Mrs. Farnworth, and Mrs. Pavo. We will be discussing two agenda items today, as well as how we're going to proceed with future visits. The two items we'll be discussing are our 2021 FY21 budget and the distance learning program that we put into place as of this past Monday. Ms. Delcourt will be monitoring our Facebook feed, and we will be able to take questions from the public during the meeting or at appropriate times during the meeting. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Sanchioni to take up the distance learning program first.
Great, thank you, Dr. Locken. And yeah, a lot of great information to make you aware of, and certainly very proud of the Tiverton Public Schools. So as you know, last week, we were asked by the governor to take our April vacation during that week in March, but also to use that time, even though it was vacation week, to plan for distance learning that would have started on Monday, March 23rd. And so in 5 days, we had to digitize the K-12 environment. And I can report to you that we successfully did that. that yesterday being the first day of online learning, today being the second, that all of our teachers are posting assignments online, and that all of our students are receiving those assignments online through various sources. For example, in grades 5 through 12, we're using Google Docs and Google Classroom, which is a mode that's been in place all year because we've been one-to-one. And at the elementary level, many of our teachers have learned Google Classroom rather quickly and implemented that. But for those who haven't, we've created learning hubs where parents can go and find their grade level and find their students' work. And then via email, our teachers are communicating with parents. So we've got 2 days in, the feedback we're getting is amazingly positive. We have 2 check-in systems to continue to monitor the system. We have a teacher feedback form that's due every day to the principal. And the principal then can look at that form and see how the teacher is doing, what resources the teacher or training the teacher may need, but also the teacher lets us know what students didn't participate. And those names go directly then to our SEL staff, so our nurses, our guidance counselors, our psychologists. And then the next day, they're calling those families and trying to ascertain why that student wasn't part of the learning that day. And the second check-in form is a student form. So every student has to send in an activity form back to their teacher or their guidance counselor every day. And that's an opportunity for us to dialogue with the student, what's working for them, what isn't working for them. And that seems to be working real well. That information is invaluable to us to make sure the program continues to work successfully. So I'm very proud of our teachers. Our principals are monitoring that data on a daily basis and making great decisions around that. And I also want to pay commendation to our principals that we had a number of families who didn't have the internet, and our principals have been calling Cox directly and resolving a lot of those issues for our families. And so just as dedicated those 5 people are, they're really trying to make this work for families. Our tech department probably gets 100 emails a day now. And they are helping families navigate, making sure devices are working, that students have the right chargers. They're helping students remember their password. Whatever it takes, they're responding. They have an open Google Classroom in their office where people can call in at any moment and get in-time live service. So that's been amazing. I want to pay big kudos to them. Connected to all this distance learning is also providing lunch and breakfast for many families. And so we've executed that now 2 days successfully. In live pickup at the Picasset, a family can come anytime between 8 and 9:30 and pick up a lunch and a breakfast for their family. And conversely, if they can't make it there, we're having it, there's an order form they fill out. That order form gets processed in the evening and given to our custodians who then deliver it. So I want to pay big commendations to Chartwell's and the amazing work they're doing in preparing over 100 lunches, breakfasts a day, and then the Mike Mendes and Phil, who are actually our couriers and getting those delivered to those families. So that's working well for us. All of this works and is in place also because of communication. And you probably have seen the great PowerPoint video that went out to our families. We had a similar one that went out to our staff, very well thought out. A lot of work of all of our administrators went to creating that. But Julie Delcourt, our Director of Communications, created those videos and has been on top of all the communication going out. So I also want to pay a big commendation to her. And then lastly, the people who are still working in the district, our custodians who come in every day and continue to sanitize and disinfect these buildings. They're exceedingly well clean right now, and want to just give that confidence to families that if in fact we ever should come back to school this year, our buildings are beyond clean. And to our secretaries who continue to come in and support our principals and all this work that I've been describing to you as far as working with families, making sure devices are working, communicating information back to families through our principals. They've been a great asset to us too. So you can see it's that old cliche, it takes a village. Well, it truly has been. A lot of people have made this program really successful. And then the last part of this, I want to let people know and the school committee know that on Thursday, we're meeting as an ad council and we're already planning the next steps. And we know that we want to incorporate more video and more contact with our teachers. So we got some great ideas to do that after a couple of weeks. We don't anticipate coming back on April 6th. So we're already planning for our extended period out. So I'll pause there and take any questions you might have.
Okay. Well, first of all, I really want to express thanks, my personal thanks, as well as I believe on behalf of the committee, all the work that the teachers and principals and administrators and yourself have been doing I'm especially gratified that we made the effort and took the time to be sure that kids who rely on us for a significant part of their nutrition are addressed as well. And as a parent, it seems to be going pretty
Okay.
well so far. Maybe a little bit of resistance on the part of the victim students, but I would say that the resources and the seamlessness with which this has actually occurred to date is pretty amazing, and a tribute to, again, our teachers and principals and administration and to your leadership. So I don't have any specific questions myself. I'm going to call on each one of the committee members in turn to see if they have questions for you, and then we'll see if we're getting any questions from the public. So Ms. Farnworth, since I can see you best on the screen, any questions or comments you would like to make?
Sure. First, I just want to reiterate the thanks that I know we all have for our administrators, our teachers, the support staff, the parents, and even the students for, bearing with us and doing their very best to learn in these trying times. It's been difficult for everyone, I know, and it's not likely to end very quickly. To that end, do either of you have any kind of feeling for how long this will last?
You go first.
Dr. Sanquioni said I can go first in trying to answer that. So there's a lot of ways of answering it, frankly. In a word, I would predict that somewhere between mid-April and mid-May, we might be back in school. The things that are driving that are sort of the effectiveness of the measures that our governor and other political leaders have put in place. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with the leadership of our governor to this so far in this issue. She's actually been ahead of most other leaders. So that's kind of a ballpark. Some projections show the epidemic peaking in late April or early May. And to give people some insight, so the incubation period of this virus is approximately 2 weeks. In order for the epidemic to be halted or slowed, you have to be imposing these restrictions on social contacts for some multiple of those incubation times. And one of the issues will also be what's going on elsewhere in the country. So if there are regional epidemics that are out of control, while we may be able to ease back on some of our restrictions on social contact, we would run a significant risk of having those epidemics kind of reintroduce transmission into our community. So it's a moving target. It's very hard to say with any great certainty. I would predict that we will be certainly out of school through sometime in the middle of April. The worst case scenario, of course, is that we not return to school at all this year. I have some confidence that we will be back sometime towards the end of April or sometime in May. You want to add anything to that?
I would
Dr. Sanquioni?
simply add that we're on a conference call with all the superintendents, with the commissioner, I would say every other day, if not daily. And we just continue hearing that it'll be longer than April 6th, but no definitive date after that.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just ask one more. With the meals, you're mentioning that they're available Monday through Friday. I thought I had seen initially that there were 2 pickup times. Is that no longer the case?
Right, that's no longer the case. That was more of a regulation that got enforced on us by RIDE. I can't quote you what the regulation was, but they wanted just one pickup and drop off. which is fine. We just package a breakfast and a lunch together now. So I think it still avails family of 2 meals a day. And, with a lot of cars coming to Pecasset, it actually makes it easier for us too.
Okay, and the makeup of those meals would be what you would typically serve student meals in school? Or is it different?
I mean, it's because it's not a hot meal, right? So it's everything that's in that bag is pre-wrapped. So it's, it's a piece of fruit, it's yogurt, it's canned fruit, cheese sticks, things of that nature. So I know they're trying to make it as nutritious as possible, but it's not, not identical to what you would have received at school.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're good?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Pavo, I hope you're there. It looks like you're still there. Any questions that I'd like to ask or comments you'd like to make?
I would just like to thank everyone involved for giving 150%, and Tiverton is looking good. They're looking good with their testing, looking good with following the rules. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Palish?
On the grab and go?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yep. On the grab and go, what's the utilization? Do we know, like, how many people are using it?
We had over 100 today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
100 meals. It doesn't mean 100 families because multiple kids in certain homes, but over 100 meals.
And compared to how many people eat, like, in our schools, in any given day, are you feeling like that's a good number of our families that are taking advantage?
Well, it's certainly less than what we feed on a daily basis.
Right.
I think this is the newness of it is probably still getting in there. Today was larger than yesterday, and we hope we'll continue to grow it. We're certainly going to continue to send out notifications to family, making them aware that it's there for pickup or delivery.
I was happy to see the delivery. I know that was something that East Providence started, and they saw a large increase when they started delivering.
Yeah. Okay.
The other question I have is, as far as computer support, I know you have the emails and the online support, but what happens? How are we supporting people if they have a device that just stops working?
Yeah, they just come to the back of the high school here where the tech office is, or into the central office, and we do a pickup and delivery there. So if they send in if they use the email tech support at Tiverton schools and let us know what that is, it's all prepped for you before you arrive, and you literally just hand us the defective Chromebook, and we give you a new one.
And that's all I have. And I'll just end with, you're all just superheroes. It's been just phenomenal to watch. It's been phenomenal to read about, and couldn't applaud all of you more for basically developing a new school system in 3 days.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Black?
Yes, I just echo what everyone said. Getting so much positive feedback about the lunches, and they said it will grow as people realize, and if they find out it can be delivered, because some people are at work at that hour, But thank you to everyone. It's been just amazing, and I think my grandchildren are doing well with it, and everything's going well. Thank you so much for everybody.
Okay, great. I have one last question. Are there any kids now who do not have access? We managed to complete 100%, or?
We're close. We still have some families who don't have the internet. And I mentioned to you in my intro that our principals are now calling Cox directly, and Cox, I give Cox credit, they're relaxing some of their initial restrictions.
Yeah.
So one of the things was if you had an outstanding bill or debt or something like that, they're now overriding that and letting families access it. But they want confirmation from the school.
Yep.
So those data sheets that come in every day are so valuable to us because it lets us know who wasn't there. The call from the guidance counselor then confirms it's an internet issue. Principal calls the next day and tries to get it. So do we have 100% connected yet? No, but I bet we're in the high 90%. We'll get there.
Okay, all right, good, thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
I do have one, and I apologize for not asking this one earlier. the, the town last night put restrictions on recreational facilities, i.e. the town-owned recreation park on Boga Marsh Road. Are there any restrictions that you're planning, Dr. Sanquioni, for the school facilities at all?
I haven't, and I guess it's how you want to perceive it, because there is information out from the CDC encouraging people to go outside in the sunshine and the fresh air. And I looked out my office today and I saw 5 or 6 people running or jogging on our track, and I think that's a good thing for the community. And using the playground, one of the things that kids also are receiving is directions from our PE teachers to go outside or do some activity, log their minutes, and we want to give them that opportunity. I think the better thing I would recommend is to send a communication to families, reminding them about social distancing. If a playground is crowded, try to wait your turn. And secondly, to just, bring your wipes with you and wipe down equipment and be as safe as possible. But, closing those facilities seems to be working against us in my mind.
Okay, no, at this point, I think that maybe a communication just to remind everyone to, exercise good hygiene and be careful when using those facilities, because certainly as the weather gets better, we hope,
Right.
Folks will want to be outside more, and providing, having places available for them to go is a great thing.
Right. Yeah. So we'll do a communication tomorrow on those things.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just quickly, Dr. Sanquioni, I agree. I don't want to be a solution in search of a problem. I mean, I don't think I've heard of mass groups of people at our schools or at our playgrounds, or certainly if we ever hear from our fire or police chief that they're seeing, problems with lots of people at them, that we may have to revisit. But I agree that is, certainly as part of our distance learning with our gym teachers, encouraging people to get out, that we'll keep them open as long as we can, but just with a reminder about social distancing and, wiping things down, etc.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Going once, going twice. All right, Ms. Delcourt, any questions from the public?
Out of our 14 viewers, 0 so far.
Okay, we have 14 viewers who are well satisfied with our presentation, is how I'm going to interpret that. All right, thank you. So our next topic of discussion today is our FY21 budget. Dr. Sanquioni?
I think we've all
Just touch my face.
all saw and got direct communication back from the budget committee that the 4% budget didn't seem to be gaining a lot of traction with them as far as approving that. And you're all aware that the 4% budget comes with a $1.4 million cut. So anything below a $4 million budget means additional cuts. 4%, I'm sorry. And so I share that with the committee in the sense of I don't believe we can go below 4%. I made the comment, and I think it was misquoted in the paper, that if we went below 4%, I'd cut the chemistry department. What I said was, what do you want me to cut the chemistry department? I have nowhere else to turn. I'm not going to cut the chemistry department. However, we would have to make additional cuts, and those cuts would come into the academics because, as you've seen in 1.4 million, we've stripped out everything else. So I guess I leave it to you now is about how we could obtain that 4% budget. I think that still needs to be our goal.
Okay. So I am going to, in reverse order now, ask for any comments or questions from the committee. Mrs. Black?
Yes, well, we have a deadline to submit. If we do choose to submit an optional school committee budget, there is a deadline come around April 7th or 9th. We'll have to check the numbers. 37 days is 44 days is all that. So we'll have to have a meeting before then. I want to see what the budget committee says. They have to vote soon also because they have their deadline. I want to see where they come in. And then we'll all have to get together and decide, because I think it's important that Dr. Sanchioni points out that we're already cutting that. It's not if we get the 4% budget, it's already gone. All those things are already gone that I know none of us agree with. We all know how important all those positions are. And so people just have to know that. And then we'll have to just get together and discuss what action we'll take to get the 4%. Thank you. The good news is the last time we tried to do it, they said we had to put in the same exact budget, remember?
Oh, yes.
And so that might be the same exact budget. So that's one good hurdle. Then we'll have to remember to say remand it to the budget committee and all those other things, you know, but
Right.
anyway, so we'll have to discuss that seriously. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I believe they are going to start voting on different items tonight or tomorrow or Thursday. I think it might be Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
No,
Thursday.
they actually are scheduled to start voting tonight.
Tonight,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Does anybody know what did they post us or do they post actually the, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
They did. They posted the meeting for tonight at 6, I think it is, and they will begin their voting. They put out the entire list of the, the specific items they need to vote upon, but they indicate that they are in no particular order. So the school allocation is the last item on that list, but that's not to say that it will be the last item they discuss.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Mrs. Black?
No, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Mrs. Palish?
Well, I think we definitely need to see what the budget committee votes. We need to wait and see what they come up with, both for capital and for operating. I certainly agree watching the meetings. It doesn't look promising for the 4%, and then we'll have to, certainly discuss and act, but I do want to at least give them the opportunity and see what they come back with.
Okay.
But I think, as Sally noted, I think it's really important that we stay on top of those dates.
Okay.
That's it.
Anything else, Deb?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes, I think that we need to continue to support the budget we asked for. And if it doesn't pass, or if the budget committee cuts significantly, then I think we have to come up with more cuts. I don't know how we're going to do that. We've cut so many. Dr. Sanchioni has cut so much already. But I think that we really do need to support the number that we voted on. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Farmer?
I don't have anything additional to add. I think we do need to wait to see what ultimately the budget committee votes on, so we know what what's in front of us, and then take action then. Are we going to be looking to schedule another meeting soon, or is that something you wanted to speak to separately?
I think we need to do that at the end of this meeting, is to decide how we're going to proceed with future meetings, recognizing that there are issues around the budget calendar that I think are still going to be very much up in the air up until perhaps when we're supposed to vote. So it's pretty uncharted territory, and I'm not sure even the attorneys can advise us all that well. I mean, not that they wouldn't try or have good advice, but it's
Dr. Larkin?
our budget process is so peculiar. I don't think you could find one anything like it in the entire country.
Not in the whole country, no.
So, up to and including a very rigid calendar, we'll probably be like landmark court decisions if it ever gets to that kind of a thing, because it's kind of weird. Anyway, Black, yes.
So we have to remember, it has to be a public meeting. And
Right.
also, we might not even be able to vote, but we got to think of all those things that could come along, as
Right.
we move along in this process with the virus. And then I guess the law is if we don't vote, I guess it goes back to this year's budget. I don't know. It's a lot of things we have to look at. But I know that public meeting is on the charter, and I don't think we'd be able to have that if it's still 10 people, of course, So those are all things that are, as you said, that are unique about our process that are going to make it more complicated. But the most important thing is that we don't miss a deadline by a second as we go along, Okay.
Maybe we should
And
just
I think,
the budget process is special. So, not pejorative.
That's not the word I
It's a special budget process.
I do
Dr.
think, go ahead.
Go ahead, Diane.
No, I just wanted to, reinforce that even though we haven't heard about any potential changes to the budgeting process, to help support cities and towns, because we're all pretty much going to be doing the same thing at the same time. I think we need to just be cognizant of the current deadlines and make sure that, we're adhering to those.
I'm sorry, Diane, we probably missed all of your comment.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, now
Now we can.
Not having heard any kind of communication regarding, at a state level, regarding, FTMs, FTRs, budget setting, et cetera. I think that right now, it's just, our responsibility to make sure that we're continuing to adhere to the deadlines that are imposed by our charter until we hear otherwise.
Yeah, part of the problem, and the whole thing's going to be fraught with peril in many regards, but one of them is that the public meetings can occur, such as ours, if there is a statutory obligation or deadline that the body needs to meet. But one of the things in the emergency declaration was there has to be adequate opportunity for public input, which is why we're monitoring Facebook. But they don't actually define what adequate public input is. Is it writing letters to the editor? Well, that probably is not adequate by the open meetings law, but the open meetings law is suspended. Is it being able to email members of the budget committee? Is it being able to stand outside with a sign? I think we're just, I think the entire town is at some risk for having the process get pretty messy pretty quickly. But I think, to their credit, the budget committee also is saying, well, we have to continue on with our elected duty, and I sort of compliment them for that. I just think that any member of this town would have standing to challenge the entire process, depending on how it goes. So, I don't know if I got through everybody. Is there anybody else on the committee who has a question or would like to make a statement?
Just everyone take care of each other and take care of yourselves and be well, please. That's the most important thing right now.
Yep. We're not done yet, though. Ms. Delcourt, any questions from the public?
Out of our 10 viewers, there are no comments.
Okay, so now we have 10 very satisfied viewers. All right. So that comes to our really final issue that we need to discuss, is how we are going to proceed with future meetings. Right now,
Tuesday.
this meeting was actually not, this was the day of our regularly scheduled meeting. We had moved it to the 30th,
31st,
which is next
Tuesday.
Tuesday, 31st.
Yep.
Yeah, 31st. Yeah, it should be 31st. So one thing I can assure you is that in terms of restricting social interactions and meetings, nothing's gonna change about that, other than it might get more draconian. I don't actually think that's gonna happen, the more draconian part, but nothing's gonna be lifted. I think this system works well enough for us to certainly meet our obligations and to continue to move the process along. So we could tentatively plan to meet next Tuesday, the 31st. The budget committee will have met twice. If they take no action on our budget between now and then, we could reschedule. The only problem there is, Sal, you said that there was it was April 7th we need to submit by?
We'll have to check the numbers back. It's 7th or 9th. It tells you on the chart how many days, 37 or 39 before. The budget committee says 44 days. They have to have theirs in. And then we're next in the council. And then the optional budget from the citizen comes last. So we'll just have to look at that chart, and count the days back from the meeting, which is probably the 16th of May, around there, or the 17th. I had asked them to send me one, but they didn't, but I found one. So everybody can see it. It's online. We'll count the days back, make sure we get under that wire if we're going to do it, So.
And Nancy Mello, I believe the town clerk, is the person who's responsible for creating and for supervising the election and creating the ballot, correct?
Yes.
And then if the board of canvassers have to certify the ballot. I think it would be a good idea to direct Dr. Sanquioni to communicate with the board of canvassers, the town clerk, and the town solicitor
Yes, that would be good.
about their view of how the provision in the charter that allows either the town council or the school committee to submit their own budget is fulfilled.
Right. That would be good.
And that we need to emphasize that this needs to be explicit, so we are not so that the process is unassailable.
Right.
If we need
Very
to
important.
exercise that.
Do we have any knowledge of when the Board of Canvassers will meet? Do they have a meeting scheduled?
They probably won't set anything up until much later.
Yeah. But I think, making sure, one of the things I'm doing with that is, or we can do with that is we're creating a paper trail, if you will,
Yes, exactly.
to demonstrate our intentions as well as get from them what they require us to do in order to, again, fulfill that part of the charter. So that if we run into issues with that, we can say, look, we asked you guys, what are we supposed to be doing? You said this, you can't change that. Or if you don't know what we're supposed to be doing, please decide what it is.
My point is, Jerry, that I don't think that as a board, they can respond to a request unless they meet.
Right, no, I agree.
Okay, I was just getting,
Which may to them, maybe we should have a meeting to determine these things. I don't think they typically meet up until close to when they have a ballot submitted to them. So they may need to be thinking about these things way before the ballot is submitted to them.
Well, perhaps the thing to do is send a communication to the solicitor, because the solicitor is going to be the one who's advising anybody.
That's right. And that's
Well-
what happened last time, yeah.
Well, I guess my argument for sending it to all three of them is so that when, so that none of them ignores it, and so that none of them understand, so that they all understand, why is the solicitor asking me about this? Why is the town clerk asking me about this?
So what's that communication going to say? could you please lay out for us the steps necessary for the school committee to submit its own budget via the charter?
Correct. More or less that.
Okay.
Dates, how it has to be, how it has to be formed, everything. So none of this, so my guess is that the solicitor is going to look at that, is going to read the letter, and then go read the charter, and then say, and think about it for a few days and see if there's case law that applies or statute that applies, because we have a special budget process, and questions like this tend to be defined by what past precedent has been. There is no real precedent in Tiverton other than obstruction and obfuscation. So I would like to avoid that.
It was still pending on the last one.
Correct.
Okay, well, it certainly doesn't hurt to have that information.
Yeah.
Because by then we need to know what the budget committee's doing.
Right.
That's certainly one strategy, but another strategy may be that someone else may want to submit a budget and it might not be through the school committee, but it's certainly good to know how each,
Right.
what each piece is.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's good. That's true.
Right. And yeah,
The charter says that in the event that the school committee wishes to submit an optional budget, that they do so. They submit an optional budget proposal and resolutions to the town clerk no later than 37 days prior to the FTR.
right.
Okay.
So we need to know how to craft the resolutions. We need to, we all know that there is a fondness for challenging what other people are trying to do in exercising their rights. So that's what I would like to try and avoid as much as we can. And in avoiding that, we create a clear trajectory of intent that then we fall back on in terms of, we asked, we got instructed, or we didn't get instructed. The charter doesn't really spell it out so that when we get challenged, we can say, we were always clear about what our intentions were.
That's good.
So right now we can plan on meeting next Tuesday at 4. We'll modify that as we need. I can try and communicate with Mr. Edwards from the budget committee about when he thinks we might be on the docket. It would be nice if they had taken their vote between now and next Tuesday. If they don't, and we have very little time to do this, that will also potentially cause problems. It's another way we could not get it done.
The budget committee has to approve and submit their docket, including resolutions, to the town clerk no later than 44 days prior to the FTR.
Right.
So that gives us,
A week.
at the minimum, a week in between.
And when is the citizen? A week after that?
5 days.
14th, the 14th?
They have like 35 days, I think, or somewhere in that ballpark. Maybe it's 28.
Yeah, I want to say it's definitely less,
It's 28 days.
28. So, okay.
Good.
So as long as we have those two dates, the citizen petition date and the R date, so that we can sort of think through that.
Yep.
Because I don't want to leave out the possibility that there is some other compromised budget out there.
No,
Right, that's right. Yeah,
No.
that's true. Okay,
agreed. Okay,
okay, that's good.
so Ms. Delcourt, any questions bubble up from the,
There are no questions, but we did get 11.
Oh, okay.
viewers now.
we got another viewer, so that's good.
So Jerry, we're gonna post for the 31st at 4?
Yeah,
Okay, just so I can change it. Thank you.
is that okay for everybody?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All five, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
I agree. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.